Hi friends, welcome to another YouTube video. Today, it's a very exciting day for me. I was able to hatch my first ever baby Russian tortoise, and it took 64 days. 64 days. That's almost 2 months. So it's very exciting for me because it's really hard to breed these guys and get successful hatchlings. Now, this is the egg that she came from. Now you can see the real size difference because she was folded in half the egg, essentially. That's why if you look at her scutes, it's kind of wrinkly. So she was folded in half inside the egg and a yolk sac, and she only weighs 13 grams. That's a very light baby compared to my redfoots, which are 21 grams when they hatch out of the egg. You've already met her parents in another video, Boris and Meow Mix, and Meow Mix laid the egg that she came from 2 months ago. Now, I was very surprised when I saw this little guy pipping, and this is very hard for me to do because the Russian tortoises, they have to brumate before breeding, so that helps with the male's testosterone to go up, and in order for them to breed, they have to go through brumation, like I said, and that can take a while. So that's like hibernation for reptiles. As you may all know, that Hawaii is a very tropical place, so it doesn't get that low in winter. But because of where I live, thankfully in the Big Island, which is the Hamakua Coast, it does get around the low 60s in winter. So that could have been a reason that my male was able to breed and he was ready. Um, but hopefully that happens the same. They don't necessarily brumate here. I guess in some places there are local breeders that can, not very little, but you have to live in certain spots to get down. If you want full brumation, either where I live, if you want a full, then you're gonna have to get a wine cooler, maybe put them inside the wine cooler, let them brumate naturally, artificially. But if you brumate them naturally, you have to live in places where it gets down maybe to the 50s. But because it gets down maybe low 60s here, that may have helped with the testosterone because during the winter they do stay in the burrows a little bit more often, um, only to come out and eat. As you can see, it is a bit cold here. I have my dog behind me, Kikini, and he is covered in a blanket. He's just catching some morning rays, warming up. And now back to the subject. Um, Russian tortoises, when they brumate, they'll dig very deep. So, like, they're like mini sulcatas in a way, except sulcatas don't brumate. So what they'll do is they'll dig very deep, slowly but surely during fall. They'll start descending into the earth, twisting and turning, descending straight forward until they reach the level they want to stay warm. Now, even from the start, babies will um, they will start burrowing. As soon as they come out of the nest, they're gonna be looking for a spot in a microclimate. And you can see this guy's got a little bit of dirt on his head because he was burrowed down. Now, this guy lives with the leopard tortoises, just so he has some friends, so he can be a little bit social, colonize with them. The leopard tortoises are older than him, and he'll bask with them, and he'll dig down. And what these babies will do sometimes is that they'll burrow down, so they'll twist around, and then they'll leave maybe part of their shell open so they can get some UVB. Otherwise, then they're fully covered, and 90% of the time they're underneath the earth in a microclimate. That's how they get a nice smooth shell on them. Now, UVB is very controversial when it comes to certain species that dig down. Now, if you're looking at, let's say, a leopard tortoise, you're going to want to put UVB because they don't necessarily burrow. But some species, like the Russian tortoise, they do burrow from the start, and box turtles. But I always err on the side of caution, so I give them UVB, just like this guy. And soaking from the start, once their yolk sac, if you look here, closed, and there's only a belly button right there. So that's just the belly button. And if you look closely, look how it's moving. The shell's moving. He's breathing, but it's very soft because they're folded in half, so it's very soft, the shell. Now, but the steps that should be taken is very high humidity, or not very high, but high humidity, moist substrate, not damp. And you want to keep the temperature warm. some babies, like if you're keeping, let's say, an aquatic turtle, warmer temperatures tend to make them grow quicker. But I try to do everything naturally. So this species, this guy can go down all the way to the 60s already. But I always try to keep it around 70s at night too. But once they're hatched and they have their belly button, and you should weigh them, soak them, soak them for at least half an hour every day, just to ensure if they're drinking water and they're hydrated. Because this little thing, think this is 13 grams. This little guy's 13 grams. There's a heart, there's blood, there's lungs, all those vital organs, but they get dehydrated fast. So you're gonna want to soak them for 30 minutes every day, because once these guys, the worst thing possible is these guys dehydrating and they're dead, because it's really hard to bring back tortoise or turtle from dehydration. So especially this tiny. So you always want to err on the side of caution. So always make sure humidity's high. Give a water bowl. So some species like this, if you want to be careful from them flipping over like that and then drowning, which can happen. I've never had that happen with me. You can put pebbles, or not pebbles, but rocks inside there so they can grip onto the rocks and flip themselves back over. Um, but even if they don't drink water when you're soaking, just soak them, because they'll absorb some through their cloaca, which is their butt, and through their skin. Now, since he is a Russian tortoise, like we explained in the other video, he is a herbivorous species. So he or she will be eating lettuce, some greens, some boiled cactus, just to make it soft. And then as he gets older, I won't boil the cactus. But then once he or she is around 4 inches or 3, I'll start putting them outside, just because of how small she is. And I don't trust that they're gonna be inside the outdoor enclosures, because they might be able to crawl out. So she's gonna be staying in longer than any of the tortoises I keep. And then once they get big enough that they can't fit underneath and dig underneath, then they'll be put outside. But she'll always come in at night. I'm never gonna keep her out at night like the redfoots. So the leopards and the Russians will always be kept in at night. Now she'll stay coming in at night for maybe till she's, just to trust her enough, maybe a year or 2 years old, because these guys can grow pretty quickly. So my redfoots can, once they're 4 inches, I put them outside. Now if it's the Russian, I might do it once they're 5 inches maybe. Now the reason I'm making all these things, I'm being very careful, is because Russians really love to dig. So if you looked at their other video, Russian tortoises will dig very deep, especially when they're adults. That's why they have these very powerful legs, long nails, and very, see how big her front legs are compared to her head. But they'll dig down very deep. That's why I'm gonna try keep her until she's maybe this big, and then she can slowly start staying out longer and longer and longer. And then only when it rains, I'll take her in just to get her used to it. Then once she's almost an adult, sub-adult, she'll be outside all her life. So again, this is Pavel, the baby Russian tortoise. Already climbing my hand. She does have one more egg or possible sibling that should hatch maybe in a month or two. Because it does look slower in development and it is a longer egg, so I don't know how that's going to turn out. But this is my first ever Russian tortoise that I hatched in captivity. And hopefully your sibling hatches. And also, do your homework before you buy a tortoise, especially baby tortoise, because if you just buy one from the pet store and then you set up once you don't want to do that. You want to have it set up, do your homework, know what you're going to feed them, know the expenses over time, and have a plan out once you go. And so you have a plan for that tortoise, because they will most likely live longer than you. So you have to make sure you have a plan for that baby tortoise and know when to, what's it called, when to start putting it outside. Try your best, and know how much that's going to cost and all those things, where you're going to feed it, so it doesn't end up living a horrible life. because these guys, just because they're reptiles, doesn't mean that they can handle everything. These are very hardy animals. So you'll see tortoises with just metabolic bone disease and they're still going, and really bad nails and everything, but they'll keep going. But that does cause a lot of problems on their internal organs and themselves. So you're gonna always want to do your homework before you buy a baby tortoise. And now, thank you for coming on today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.